Hello everyone, this is Lamariulum, and I would like to welcome you to the first official episode of God Awaken. The title of this message is Transcending, the Tyranny of Tiny Thinking. By the end of this message, I want you to be able to think, wow, I did not know the Bible could be so liberating. I think that for a long time, Christianity and the Bible have been utilized by political religious authorities to kind of basically limit human potential and human experience. And what I'd like to do is offer a different perspective, something that will enrich, empower, uplift, and give you the moral fiber to move beyond moral limitation that you find in a lot of the religious and even spiritual perspectives of Scripture. So with that said, these are a series of sermonettes, tiny little sermons that I think will be helpful in just giving you a different perspective of the spiritual tradition. One of the things that's missing from society today, I think it's hurting a lot of people, is a connection to something greater than themselves. A lot of people feel disconnected, alone, powerless, because they either are actually alone, they have no one in their lives, or because they feel like they're alone in the universe. And what I want to do is offer you guys a different perspective, letting you know that God actually is here, a part of you, very much aware and very much alive. And God is not some being out in the sky, floating in space, waiting to strike you down with a thunderbolt every time you look at a dirty picture or yell at your neighbor. God is something that dwells within you that is self-aware, something that can be cultivated, refined, and utilized to the creation of your highest dreams and desires in life. So with that said, I would like to offer a fresh perspective of the Bible, God, Christianity, Christ, that goes beyond moral absolutism and transcends the ignorance of moral relativism. Hopefully at the end of this, you'll be inspired to cultivate God within and refine this power that is within you. So without further ado, let us begin. I would like to read, since this is a sermon, from the Bible. And I will be reading from the King James Version. Why? Because it is written in the language of the Anglo-Saxons, or the derivative language of the Anglo-Saxons. And I really appreciate the way it's written. I think that it's very poetic. So anyway, reading from Joshua 24, verses 14 and 15. And this is Joshua speaking for the Lord. Now therefore fear the Lord, and serve him in sincerity and truth, and put away the gods which your fathers served on the other side of the flood, and in Egypt, and serve ye the Lord. And if it seem evil unto you to serve the Lord, choose you this day whom you will serve, whether the gods which your fathers served that were on the other side of the flood, or the gods of the Amorites, in which land ye dwell. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. So when you listen to that, you may be tempted to think that Joshua was an old Hebrew guy out in the desert, with all these rusty, dusty Hebrew people all gathered around the dirt, and they're all praying to some disembodied, fanciful God. I mean, that's what National Geographic would have us think, and that's also what many of our church leaders would have us think. But there's something else here. There's something from the esoteric tradition that I would like to point out. And if you look at the word Lord, the word Lord actually is just means leader. In English, it just means leader, the person in charge, the one to whom others submit. It's like the word lady. Now, when you look at the word that was the basis of Lord, it is Yahweh. Now, Yahweh is the Hebrew term for God, the creator God, the source of all life. This is the great God that creates all things, the God that is even above the Elohim. But what does that mean? Yahweh is the noun version of the verb hawa or hava, which means to become. Now, as with anything, there's many ways of understanding or reading a text. And this is where we get into the allegorical and mystical understanding, which is the basis of esotericism. We could read this as, choose you this day whom you will serve. But as for me and my house, we will serve process. We will choose to transcend. We will choose to be engaged in becoming, in growing, and moving into something new. And if you look at that, if you look at the story of Joshua, who, by the way, is Jesus, the word Yeshua is the same name as Joshua. And the name Jesus is a corruption of the word Yeshua. His name was Yeshua ben Yosef. The Old Testament book of Yeshua or Joshua is the exact same name. It's the same name. It's a very common name in that time, at that period, and amongst those people. So Joshua is calling for a new covenant, a new understanding of God. And this is one of the books that kind of begins the journey that leads up to the embodiment of God in the human form of Christ. But Joshua in this story, or Yeshua in this story, is saying basically, we will serve the process. We will submit to transcendence. We will move forward into becoming. It's a very powerful message that can be derived from this story and many other stories in the Bible. In future sermonettes, I will show different areas where God is portrayed as a process that we are all going through as we transcend our attachment to physicality. Now, I'm not getting into the silliness of the kind of this kind of new agey Buddhist idea of we need to overcome the physical world. I'm not doing that at all, because I think that the physical world was created for spirit to enjoy it and to experience itself. And so, enjoying the experiences of pleasure and of wealth and of freedom and of joy and exhilaration, ecstasy, these are things that I think are not only encouraged by the Bible and by the spiritual traditions in the Christian faith, but they are also actually, it's almost like we're commanded to. We're commanded to enjoy and to have delight and to have wealth and to have freedom and to have experience the pleasures of life. So I want to make it very clear that I think this is what we were being called to. But the process of becoming allows us to have these experiences, but not be controlled by them or driven by them in this life. So in closing, thank you so much for listening. This is something that is very near and dear to my heart. I think that as you move forward, I would encourage you to look at areas of your life where you are limited and ask yourself, is this limitation something that I am going to overcome or transcend? I would encourage you to look at the limitations that have been passed down through your religion, through your faith, through your lack of faith, through your family, through your culture, through your so-called race, and see if there are areas that you think, oh man, I would love to overcome that. And put a note down below. And I will scour the biblical texts and try and come up with something that will address some of them. I won't be able to catch every single one, but those that I'm able to discuss, I'll be glad to put together a video and share it with you. So I hope this was encouraging, uplifting, enlightening, but more than anything, I hope that this has strengthened your bond with the God within and also awakened God just a little bit more in you today. Have a great rest of your day. Be blessed.